Hi. The fresh spells of attack on Iranian and US facilities in the Middle East are alarms. Whether the peace process would remain in progress or it would move out of the track. On one side, the stakeholders are focusing on peace process, while on the other, there are negative developments as well. When a commercial ship in the Strait of Hormuz was targeted, in response, the US forces retaliated by targeting at least 10 military facilities in Iran. Iran also responded while targeting the US bases in Bahrain and Kuwait. Today, I'll be discussing about the Middle East crisis with the background and the developments, whether the peace is going to win or the war.
Middle East is a place on earth which is considered as the cradle of civilization, rich history and geopolitical complexity. Henry Kissinger emphasizes the region as a pivot in the global affairs. Serge Shemin believes that the historical complexities have always fueled the geopolitics of the region. The former president of the US, Ronald Reagan, considered the region as a moral subject rather than only a strategic issue. The modern conflict of Middle East originates in the backdrop of the fall of Ottoman Empire, colonialism and the rise of nationalism in the region. Following the First World War and the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, Britain controlled Palestinian territory. Promises were made to both the Zionists and the Arabs. When the tension started to rise between them, the United Nations in 1947 divided the territory between the Arab and the Jewish state. On May 14, 1948, Israel declared its sovereignty and independence. The adjoining Arab countries attacked subsequently, and a series of conflict started between the Arabs and Israel. Another major war between them broke out in 1956. The 1956 war is considered as the Suez Crisis in the backdrop of the Cold War. This war is also believed to be last result of fading colonial powers and the birth of New World Order. When Abdel Nasser, the then president of Egypt, nationalized the Suez Canal, an alliance of three countries, first Israel, then France and Britain, attacked Egypt with a motive to remove Abdel Nasser from Cairo. Owing to international pressure, the three countries withdrew from Egypt. One of the interesting outcomes of this war was that both the superpowers criticized the attackers. President Abdel Nasser emerged as the powerful leader. The border skirmishes resulted into major conflict between Israel and Arab countries. As a result of war, Israel captured the Sinai Peninsula and Gaza Strip from Egypt, the West Bank and East Jerusalem from Jordan, and the Golan Heights from Syria. This expanded Israel's border and shifted its geopolitical position. Another consequence of this war was the deepening of Cold War in the region. The US strengthened its ties with Israel, and the USSR had good relations with other countries in the region. The 1973 war is also known as the Yom Kippur War between Israel and the Arabs. The Arab countries were aiming to regain their lost territories in the 1967 war. The war affected the existing geopolitics in the region and also gave birth to severe oil crisis. This crisis affected not only the region but the whole world. Besides these mentioned conflicts, there have been a number of skirmishes from time to time in the region. The ongoing complexities started with the Hamas attacks on Israeli civilians, and Hamas carried out these brutal attacks on Israel from land, air and sea, claiming the lives of more than 1,200 people and wounding many. These attacks are termed as the most brutal Israel ever faced. As a response to these October 7 attacks, Israel retaliated with massive armed offensive into Gaza. The fresh wave of destructive developments started with the US-Israel attack on Iran on February 28, 2026. Iran's IRGC, or Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, retaliated massively by targeting US bases spreading in different countries of the Middle East. The United States Emirates alone witnessed thousands of missiles and drone attacks. Beside the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar had to bear the bolt from the blue as well significantly. After months of spells of actions and reactions in the region, attempts were made to facilitate the negotiations. The leaders met in Islamabad, but these efforts ended abruptly without reaching a concrete conclusion. The recent development towards peace started when the United States and Iran announced their consent on a framework which includes a period of 60 days ceasefire. There is also a consensus to open the Strait of Hormuz. Besides, the agreement also aims for negotiating the Iranian nuclear enrichment program. Both the United States and Iran agreed to stop the armed action against each other and to facilitate the peaceful navigation in the region. Iran would open its nuclear enrichment program for a uranium stockpile and would get lucrative incentives, including the frozen assets of Iran, worth billions of dollars. We know very well that the Strait of Hormuz is an area through where the world's fifth of oil and gas is transported. Since the conflict is started in the region, there has been crisis in the international market. One of the major hurdles is emanating from Lebanon. Iran on one side said that the initial peace deal incorporates Lebanon and wants Israel to think like that. But Prime Minister Netanyahu initially refuted to withdraw from Lebanon. Another major glitch in the durability of peace deal is the Iranian nuclear enrichment program. In 2015, there was an accord between Iran and P5+1. The 2015 Iran nuclear deal, which is officially known as the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action or JCPOA, is an international accord to prevent Iran from developing the nuclear arsenals. This was between Iran and P5+1, which means 5 permanent members of the United Nations Security Council and Germany. The EU was also the part of it. On one side, countries like Saudi Arabia stated that it must also be consulted in the process, and on the other, Israel opposed the deal. These countries believed that in the absence of any deal, Iran would develop nuclear weapons. However, Israel was thinking of a preemptive strike as it did against Syria and Iraq earlier.
In 2015, when Barack Obama was the President of the United States of America, there was a comprehensive agreement on Iranian nuclear program between Iran and P5+1 countries. When Trump became the president, this agreement was dismantled. The aim of this agreement when it was signed was to restrict the Iranian nuclear enrichment program to the level that it won't allow Iran to develop nuclear arsenal. But with the passage of time and changed political scenario, this agreement was dismantled. We know very well that Middle East is very important for global peace. We have understood very well that since the fresh spells of attacks started on 28 February when Israel and the United States assaulted Iran with majority of its might, we believe that yes, of course, peace is important, and peace is important when all stakeholders agree and are honest to dedicate themselves, their efforts in particularly towards peace. No doubt, the durable peace would strengthen the global economy and would also the practices to sort out the political disputes through negotiation. Thank you so much for watching.